Okay, welcome back. Hope you guys don't mind, but I'm going to try to rush this last tutorial a little bit just because I'm racing the bell. So last time we left off, we were doing transformation controls on these first three clips. We covered the motion, the position, the scale, and the rotation. We also did a little bit of the opacity. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom out, and I'm going to work with this clip right here. And it's actually a longer clip, so let's just chop it up, say right here. Why not? Cut right there. Okay, now that I'm working with a new clip, you can see that my effects have reset because this is an entirely different clip. The special effects are found down in your project panel, but under the effects tab. Okay, you have audio effects, audio transitions, video transitions. Now the transitions are fairly simple. All you have to do is select one and drag it between the two different clips you want it to transition from. And it goes in between. If you want to lengthen the transition, what you do is you select the transition and you drag it back, and it brings it back proportional on both sides. On the left hand side on the source screen, you can actually preview what it's supposed to look like. So A goes to B, and that's how it ends. Okay, but because we're looking at effects, let's jump right into it. Okay, so we're going to go into video effects, and let's say we do a blur. So blur is under, let's see, distort. Not distort, let's go noise and grain. Let's try that one. Nope. You know what? I'm just going to go into my toolbar and type in blur. Blur. Under blur and sharpen. I got it. Okay. I hadn't scrolled up or far enough. Okay. Well, that's another shortcut you can do, is you can type in your actual clip, but now the problem is that when I select something else and I'm looking for, say, posterize or time change, I won't be able to find it because right now it's only filtering BLUR. So it's under video effects, blur and sharpen. If I X out, there I go back to video effects, blur and sharpen, there we go. Okay, so an easy blur is just a regular simple Gaussian blur. I'll just zoom out, select my clip, drag Gaussian blur onto the stage, drop it down onto my clip, and then it pops up right here. Something else I could do is if I click on my effect and I hit delete, is I could double click on the effect while my clip is selected and it'll pop up right here. So here are my effect controls for my Gaussian blur. My blurriness is set to 0, so I will blurry. If I was working on another clip or the exact same clip but another effect, and I want to turn off my blurring effect, I could just toggle off the effects, and when I'm ready to put it back all together, when my video is all done, I just toggle it back on. There we go. Okay, so right now I'm going to bring my blurriness back down to 0 so I can see what I'm doing, and I'm going to show you the masks. Now masks allow the effect to be limited to a certain area. So say Mr. McCarl was a very private person and we wanted only to hear his voice. Well, I could take my ellipse tool and a mask gets generated. I'll plop it over his head. And now when I bring up the blurriness, only his face will get affected. Okay, we're back. Hopefully this will be the last video. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to find a part of the clip where it's exactly where I want it to be. And typically it's not usually near the front or the end, it's usually in the middle because that's where the majority of your footage is. And what I'm going to show you, you want to start in the middle typically because usually at the end there's a lot of motion and at the beginning there's a lot of motion. So I'm going to say, okay, he's mostly there. And this mask that I have, under mask path, I have playback controls. So they're actually called tracking controls. I'm going to track forward, and what's going to happen is it's going to look at the points around Mr. McCarl's head and say, okay, what isn't moving? And so anytime the pixels within the circle move, the mask itself will move, and it's going to track it forward. And the reason we want to track forward and then backwards is so that the initial shift from someone's head or the change in scene doesn't really affect it. Because if we start with the change in scene at the beginning, you'll have a lot of tracking to do. Whereas if you go from the beginning and track backwards, you'll have one change at the end, and track forwards from the beginning or from the middle, you'll have one change at the end to make. Okay, so that is pretty much the end of the lesson. From this point, you can keep going with other effects and practice it. And when you're all done your clip, what you want to do is select your sequence menu, your sequence timeline, press return. Your computer will render out the files, meaning all of the changes we've done will turn green. And at that point, you are ready to export. I'm just going to stop it. Thank you very much for watching. That is today's lesson, and hopefully you guys have